live from these platforms, from both LinkedIn and YouTube. All right, so I'm gonna check the chat. Hi, Manuel from Ghana. All right. For anyone joining us from YouTube and LinkedIn, welcome to the webinar. Please introduce yourselves in the chat. We are doing a quick introduction section. We just want to know where you are joining us from and what you're currently doing. So please go ahead and share your responses. Okay, I'm receiving a lot of responses now. Hi, Zahid. Hi, Osadeba. Hi, Harish from India. Hi, Venkatesh from Chennai. Hi, Abhishek from Delhi. Thank you for joining. Hi, Anil. Hi, Pradeep from Bangalore. Hi, Kushi from Nagpur. Kedar from India. Joseph from UK. Hi, Christina from India. Hi, Prakhar. Hi, hi, Chetan from Bangalore. Arun from Chennai. Hi, Cyprus. Hi, Christina. Hi, Manoj from Hyderabad. So many people from uh, Bangalore, so many from US. Okay, great. It's wonderful. I can see so many responses. Unfortunately, I will not be able to read out all of your names and the cities you are from, joining us from, but it's great to see such enthusiasm and thank you all for sharing your responses. Now that we know that there's a lot of you joining us today and we know a little bit about your background and the country you're joining us from. I would also like to introduce myself. I'm Shweta, and I will be your host for today's webinar. And like you can see on the screen, today's topic is the new PMP's Payback, how to earn more in project management. And this is a very important topic for us to discuss. We have a wonderful speaker join us today, and I will give his introduction in the coming slides. This is going to be a wonderful session. There's a lot we're going to cover. Please feel free to ask your questions in the Q&A as well. I'll get to that. So without wasting any more of our time, I'm going to quickly walk you all through the ground rules for today's webinar. If you guys have any questions, I request all of you to share your questions in the Q&A box. This will ensure that we don't miss out on any of your questions. We will surely take it up towards the end. If not, I can share it with Tim as he explains the slides that you are referring to. Please use the chat box effectively. I request all of you not to share any external links in the chat. Please keep the conversations related to today's topic. Let's keep it very informative and let's try not to spam the chat. For your certificate of participation, we will be sharing a poll towards the end of the webinar. You can share your details, your full name in the poll, and you will be receiving the certificate, the recording, and the slide deck to your email ID within the first 48 working hours. And yes, I can see a question about the recording. I hope I answered that. And I can see a few of you mention about the sound. I think we already did audio check. So there's no issue from our side. Please try rejoining. This issue will mostly be resolved in that case. Okay, it's fine now. Great, thank you. So before I go ahead, I just want to quickly ask all of you, if you have joined our webinars before, is this your first time? If this is your first time, please mention first in the chat. If it is not, you can mention the if it's the second time, just mention that. Just want to quickly understand the audience here. First. All right, so many first timers. More than one, second time, first, second. All right. First going through the PMP training with Simplilearn. Okay, great to know that. First time. All right. So many first timers, a few of you attending the webinar for the second or the third time. That's wonderful to know. So if you all have attended webinars with us and chose to join us again, thank you all for being here. We greatly value this. And for anyone joining us for the very first time, thanks for joining us. This is going to be an informative webinar. I'll just take 2 minutes to explain what we do at Simplilearn so you get an understanding of what we do. At Simplilearn, we've had the privilege of helping millions of professionals across the world build skills that directly impact their careers. So we have worked with learners across more than 150 countries and partnered with leading universities and technology companies and helped professionals transition into higher paying roles through practical industry aligned learning. Today's webinar is a part of the same mission, helping professionals make informed career decisions backed by industry data. So if you're wondering about our partners, on the screen right now, you can see some of our university partners and tech, industry partners as well. And if you would like to have an in-depth understanding of this, you can go to our website and take a look at the same. Some of the numbers we wanted to highlight here are these. So most of our learners have reported a 50% salary hike on completion of courses with us. And we have also been rated 4.8 out of 5 by most of our learners. So this clearly talks about the kind of learning experience you can expect with us if you decide to join our courses, or even if you join us as a part of these webinars. This is our mission to deliver really impactful sessions. We also have a graduation rate of 80%. So most often when you join an online course, you see a lot of drop-offs after the first few weeks. But we have been able to retain our audience to retain our learners to complete the entire course curriculum. And that's something that we're really proud of. And we wanted you all to be aware of our journey as well. So with that, I have covered what we do at Simplilearn, and I am sure you're all waiting to hear more about today's speaker. And I am very excited to introduce our guest speaker for today's session, somebody I really look up to. I absolutely enjoy having conversations with Tim. So we are joined by Timothy Jaroon. If I have to talk about Tim, he is an internationally recognized PMP educator, author, mentor, and project management leader with more than 25 years of global experience. He has been PMP certified since 2003, and it's been a very long time. He has trained over 14,000 project managers worldwide, has advised universities, professional training organizations, and also the PMI, and has worked across industries. As you can see on the screen, he has worked in industries like healthcare, finance, manufacturing, government. I name it, I think it's all there. He's worked across a lot of industries. And what I particularly appreciate about Tim's perspective is that it combines three viewpoints very few people possess. He's been a practitioner, he's been a hiring leader, and he spent more than 2 decades preparing professionals for one of the most respected certifications. So this is not just going to be about theory. You're going to learn a lot more from him, and I'm sure you're all waiting to hear from him. So Tim, once again, thank you for joining us today. Please go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Thank you very much, Shweta. And it's an honor and a privilege to be here with Simplilearn and talking with you all. Today's conversation here is really near and dear to my heart. When I lost my job back in 2012, I told myself nobody else has to go through this. And that's why I adopted training in education. I was basically so angry that I said nobody should have the indignity of losing their job. Now, with that in mind, I didn't know how important project management was going to be. It has turned into one of the greatest careers that I could have ever imagined, and it's got me exposed to like 80 to 150 of the major corporations in the world and governments. And it's allowed me to have conversations, not just with world leaders, but people like you who are going to architect the future. I've had a real privilege. My capstone was my book that was published back in 2025, and that was part of it. It was understanding human behavior to a certain part, and that's what I really enjoy. If you want to make a career project management, number one, you can learn the technical skills in 3 years, but you're going to spend the rest of your life figuring out how to work well with people. And that is the excitement. And I hope you find the inspiration today in saying that this is not just a career. Even now, in these uncertain times, this is not just a career for the next 4 or 5 years. If you figure this out, you can actually have this carry you for the next 20 to 30 decades. Okay? How's that?
That's amazing. And I think that's exactly how we want to start the webinar as well. Once again, thank you for introducing yourself. A lot more to learn. And based on what you just said, I think this would be an amazing opening statement. So, project management salaries aren't leveling off, they're climbing. With the 30 million rural talent gap opening up by 2035, just like you mentioned, the opportunities for certified professionals will only keep expanding. And this is exactly what you said. The opportunities are a lot in this field. But if you were to talk about the current market for project managers, what would it be like? What is the current market reality and earning potential for someone who is already in the field or for someone who is planning to transition into project management space?
If we follow what Project Management Institute has said for the last 20 years, I can say you're going to have, that the growth, well, the need for project managers. We're never going to fill it. Okay, there will always be opportunity for more of us. The second part is within 3 to 5 years of having a certificate of it's basically a certificate of expertise backed by PMI. And if you get a PMP like that, then you start saying, okay, within 3 or 5 years, I can expect another 25% on top of my salary. Now that's historic. Okay. What's happening now is that there are disruptions. And you know what disruptions are, right? It's changing the way people act, behave, and think. And they're caused right now for many different reasons. This is a historic amount of disruptions we're happening in. And a lot of people see this as uncertain and frightening, and I don't know what to do. Um, if you have a game plan, if you have a strategy, these are the times you can move past that 26%, and that's what's exciting. And you see the numbers up here, right? Look at the growth numbers, look at the demand numbers. It's not going to end. And again, we have project managers who manage conferences and education programs. We have project managers who are building quantum processors and that kind of thing. And so the same skills you're learning, transport themselves across industries and sectors and all sorts of things. And it's surprising where you can take these skills and focus them once you have them. Yeah, the opportunities are there, but it's for the people who are willing to, put a little extra effort and face that uncertainty.
Right. I think that's valuable advice. And I think it applies to everyone that place where you're just scared to take that leap. That is where a lot of people are stuck. But if somebody is actually watching today's webinar and they want to maximize their income over the next 3 to 5 years, let's say, where should they focus on first? Should they prioritize experience, leadership, or specialize in any particular domain? Or does certification still provide the biggest return of investment in project management specifically?
Okay, so if you were to ask me 5 years ago, I would have said, okay, get a quality certification or a risk certification or an agile certification and get your PMP. Okay, get very broad, not just deep. Okay? Now I'm saying, Agile's part of project management. This we never considered that before. And I would consider learning how to work inside and alongside uncertainty. But that's part of the PMP now too. So it's your discretion whether you want to go deep into Agile or not. And certifications are a piece of it. The other piece I would have said even 10, 12 years ago was delegate the daily tasks that a project manager does and start learning what the executives around your projects do and start talking with them and interacting with them. It's more of an informal training. We used to have mentoring, right? It's that, and nothing prepares you more for something like that, like a certification showing that, yeah, I'm done with my university. I don't need that anymore, but I'm continuing my path, demonstrates to executives that you are worthy of their attention. How's that?
Yeah,
That's
I
that's
think that,
that's yeah, that's basically how I've seen this change now.
yes, I think that's a very important distinction that you mentioned over the years. And another major question that we receive from our audience is, let's assume someone already has a lot of experience and they have worked on projects and they have also worked with stakeholders, but when opportunities arise, they're still overlooked. Could the issue actually be how they're presenting their experience? And is there a way that they can make their portfolio stand out and get hired for that opportunity?
Okay, so there's a few things we can think about. This slide actually talks about it really well. Stop focusing on, meeting all the requirements. Start looking at the results of your project, right? And it sounds sort of corny, sort of silly, but at the same time, if you're aligning your project work with the organizational corporate strategy, who's going to deny your project and who's going to deny that you know what priorities are within the work you're doing? And also look at the depth of your projects. We often don't have a choice in the projects we're given, but there is a way to approach a project such that it is meaningful and valuable to whoever you talk to. And again, like I say, I was in marketing for about 5.5, 6 years, and I did a lot of conferences and hosting conferences. And so I said, okay, conferences are my life. How do I make them really meaningful? And then don't be afraid to show the messiness of a project, okay? Because it's real and it's authentic. And this is one thing that we don't have in management. I'm talking about management across all corporations and industries and nations, okay? Management has this perception that I have to hide the untidiness of day-to-day work. And sometimes it's the confusion that actually creates that, that this is real and this is authentic and we're doing real work because we don't know. And then also one of the things we forget, and I've seen this with the adoption of Agile, everybody thinks, and I'm serious when I say everybody thinks once you do Agile, you don't need documentation because it's Agile, it's flexible, and we write things down and it changes tomorrow. But if you can create some type of a paper trail, okay, we have something in ethics called integrity. When you say something and do it, it magnifies people's trust in you. It's called integrity, right? Well, writing something down and aligning it to what you say and do just magnifies it even more. So this is one thing that I would suggest. In the old days, I would say have a project journal where you keep your personal thoughts, have the artifacts you share with your stakeholders and team holders, and have them well formed and turn them into habits so people come to expect this from you. You will stand out when you do this because not very many people do this. And yes, it's hard. Writing is hard. Creating ideas is hard. But if you do this, it's spectacular. This is where the great ideas of projects come from. And then finally, don't take on somebody else's desired job. And this is something I found. My most satisfying jobs were the ones where I found a need. And I said, I know you don't have anybody for that, but what if? And all of a sudden I was there and they made the job for me and they made the salary for me because I understood the value of the job and the work. And so they were able to give that to me. Don't be afraid to create your own jobs. It's slow, it takes time, and it only happens about 3 or 4 times every 5 years, but it does happen if you listen.
Thanks a lot, Tim. That was really reassuring, gave us a lot of perspective and confidence also to go ahead in this field. And I see a lot of questions about the update that has come up. I just want to let you all know that we will be covering that in the coming slides. We're going to talk about the major changes that have happened, that will be happening this July 9th, and what the key differences are between PMBOK 7 and PMBOK 8, and how you can prepare for that as well. We'll just cover a few more slides before we get to that. And Tim, I think with that, I also have another question for you. I'm sure that now all of us have gotten a very good perspective or understanding on how you can stay in this field, how you can make use of the opportunities that are out there, how to land the jobs that you want. But if someone actually has to realistically begin today, could you talk to us or give us a tip on how they can have a 90-day roadmap that they could actually follow alongside a full-time job? What would those first few months look like to get into that role?
So, first of all, figure out where you want to go. It's like in a project. What does success look like at the end? And I would choose either at the end of 3 years or 5 years. Do some strategic planning, just like major corporations do. Hey, major corporations do this strategic planning, at least the ones who are over 100 years old. So if you follow the way they plan, you're going to probably be pretty successful. So figure out what you want. And that's where you do your gap analysis and say, oh, I do like project management, or I do like agile work, or I want to transition from government work or from manufacturing to healthcare. How do I do that? Well, you don't look at the how. You look at the what first. You look at the outcome and results. And then you start working on one specialization within that. And then you break it down. And once you have that results, that gives you your North Star, your direction. And if you really want that over time, use that to actually make your decisions as you go through. And that's the key. And that's how I got my PMP. I got my MBA because I wanted to understand, how people work on major things and get major things done as a group. But then I got my PMP to become more articulate and be able to be more understanding of the short work that makes changes. So each decision you make helps you to course correct, just like you do in Agile. And then don't be afraid to say, I have a growth plan to your peers and your seniors that you report into and say, this is the direction I'm going. What do you recommend? And they're either going to say, I don't have time for you, and that's fine. You go, okay. And you start looking for other potential mentors within your organization or corporation. Or they say, huh, that's interesting. let me tell you my thoughts, and then you figure out maybe we can bounce some ideas together. I've had some of my most inspirational managers. Don't be afraid of saying of getting the response, no or that. It's not something that stops you. It's something that course corrects you. Okay? And then on top of that, don't track tasks. I mean, I have lists. I have lists that keep track of my lists, okay? I am that's how crazy I am. But I found out if I track the results, if I track the outcomes, like am I reaching the strategic milestones that I'm laying for myself? This is the big deal. And then go back to your conversations and go back to this whole idea of, looking in the mirror, okay? This is called a black swan. And it's funny because, in my classes, I teach people about confidence. And confidence doesn't come from starting something new. It comes from looking in the rear view mirror and seeing a pattern. And often the pattern we have in our careers is not observable by looking in the future, but looking in the past. So you look in your past for your confidence, for your direction, whether it's, okay, I'm confident I need to change my direction, to then looking in the future because of this direction that I'm going on. I'm still where I want to go, or I've learned something new and I want to go in a different direction.
Thank you so much for that wonderful explanation, Tim. I think now we are very clear on what we have to do in the next 90 days if they want to grow in their career path. And we also spoke a lot about certifications in this slide, and that brings me to the next question that I have. A lot of participants here have a lot of experience as well, but where does certification make a difference in the career? How much of an advantage do they get in terms of in terms of their compensation or in job opportunities if they have the PMP certification from your experience?
From my experience, um, in the first year or two, a little bit, not a lot. Um, it's the attaining the certification and demonstrating the competency. Okay, it's the combination of the two. So within 2 to 3 to 5 years, you're probably you have an incredible amount of opportunity for gaining not just salary increases, but promotions, jumps in the role in your company. And this is what I found with project management, either within the company jumping or going outside of the company and taking on a higher level from frontline manager to middle manager to senior manager and business unit manager and executive. I see this over and over again. You may not see this pattern in your life right now, but I look over 16,000 people now with over 20 years, and it's very observable from my perspective.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that gives us a perspective on how certifications could can be helpful, and also how to realistically expect certifications to help as well. We Before we move on to the PMP exam update segment, I just wanted to highlight something that we found. As per data, so PMP certified professionals have a 33% higher median salary when compared to non-certified peers, and this is an average across 21 countries PMI surveyed. So this is proof, in a way, that this certification could help you in your career if you are in this field. Tim, do you have any thoughts on this? Any tips you would want to share
Yes,
with us?
yes, this is very exciting because PMI has been doing these similar surveys, and for years they were saying 20 to 26% bump. Now they're saying 33% bump. So we're seeing a trend here. And it's not just a 1 year trend, okay? And it's not just if you read into the reports, it's not just because you have a certification. It's because you have the certification plus the exposure to all levels in a business. As a project manager, you build relationships, and it's the relationships that you build with your project management, with your certification, that actually turn this into not just a reality, but it's a foregone conclusion.
Yes, absolutely. You're so right about that. And I think now that we understand the importance of this certification and how helpful this can be, we will move on to the next segment, which is the PMP exam update. A lot of conversations around this, a lot of questions about this as well. And as we all know, this 3 days from today, the PMP exam changes. Finally, a question that has been asked a lot. So you are in this room where we're gonna discuss what's changing. And Tim, you have seen the PMP change the exam or update the exam over the years. So could you tell us what are some of the key changes that we can expect in the next 3 days? The exam would be updated. So what are some of the things aspirants can expect?
Well, first of all, Simplilearn has been teaching along the new training content and the new material. The update to the project management body of knowledge has been available since September and October, and also the exam content outline. So I've been busy here in my home office doing my research, and it fits with everything else that we're talking about. Okay, number one, refinement. Number two, simplicity. The seventh edition of the PMBOK changed everything. We went away from processes and inputs and outputs and all that. And we said, that's predictive. We're going to park that over here for now. Now, it's still parked in the eighth edition, but the PMBOK says, you know what? We started with these ideas of principles and domains, right? A principle is a guiding thought or a guiding attitude. It's a mindset. Okay. And so they're still teaching along those mindsets. But what they've done is they've simplified it. They've said, well, we started off with 12 and let's go ahead and break it down into just, the commonalities, and the categories they chose are very meaningful. And the same thing with domains where we apply our principles, right? And then on top of that, two big facts came out of the release of the eighth edition of PMBOK. It's number one, artificial intelligence is even more disruptive than what we've considered. And number two, this idea of sustainability is not just taking care of, the world. It does mean that we're going to have a home for as long as we want if we actually create a way to sustain our environment as we live within it. Okay. It's that, and sustainability is more. It's actually PMI is seeing sustainability to start there, and then add into the idea of, is our work meaningful? Can I do something on a project that will be there in 50 to 100 years if it still has value? Okay. That's what sustainability really means. And then again, it's not just the PMBOK. This is one of the things that I teach in my classes. If you look at the updated exam content outline, they're actually showing you the shift in the exam. And the exam is saying leadership is still important. Understanding the process is important. Understand the business now. The business area of the exam is growing. It used to be only 10% of the exam, and now it's a little over 20%. I see a balance coming here in the next 10 to 15 years, but it's a really big statement there. And then again, they because of COVID and because of a lot of people go through gap years in their careers, PMI is saying, okay, if you want to qualify for the exam, it's not just the last 8 years. We allow you to use your experience from a decade ago, up to a decade ago, to actually qualify for the exam too. So what they understand their audience and they understand the people that they serve. And so it's becoming a much more realistic experience to gain and demonstrate your capabilities.
Thank you for highlighting all the major changes, Tim. And I think now that you mentioned AI and sustainability in this slide, we already spoke about AI in our conversation. There's one question I think I would like you to address here. Nitish is actually asking how AI is impacting project management. Do we need a PMP certification when AI bots are able to do half of the job for project managers, maybe more than half? And I understand from the audience point of view that this is a very relevant question, something we get asked a lot. So, what is your perspective on this? Would AI replace project managers?
Okay, so if you look at designing education for human beings, right? Human beings learn in a certain manner. We learn to memorize facts and figures, right? That's called recognition. And then we build in context, right? Context is comprehension. We understand why, right? So we understand the how and the what through memorization and the why through the context. And then we apply it. Now, here's the thing. When you go into a project, you're working with the scope, which is how and what. Where does the why come from? It comes from the decision makers, from the executives. Remember that, okay? This is the big deal. But one thing that AI does not do well right now is number one, be able to create a new context of why. AI looks at languages and patterns in language, and they pick up their understanding of why by repeating what things are there. So if you are able to interpret and communicate why effectively, it's going to be another 10 or 15 years before AI can replace you. And now back to this whole idea of executives. This is the big part that AI is not going to do. Now, AI does some great things right now, right? Number one, it can collect data like never before. Number two, it can put categories in data. You can actually say to AI, okay, collect this data, put it in these categories. What am I missing? And it'll go through and look at the language models, right? And it'll say, well, some people over here have said this is important too. Now, think about what AI is telling me. It says these people over here are having a discussion. It doesn't say I think. Okay? AI does not decide. This is where we have an opportunity for the next 2 to 4 decades. Those of you who are starting in your career will probably see a transition. The other part that I think that we're looking at is human behavior itself. All of the major companies who develop the AI tools are struggling with getting AI to understand human behavior, and it is so far away. And if you understand working with people, being able to command presence in a room, be able to facilitate discussions and decision making, you can build a career on that because you're not focusing on the day-to-day work. I would tell you 10 years ago, delegate, your Excel work and your PowerPoints and find people who want to learn that, coach them on that, and have them do that so you spend more time with your executives. Today, I'm saying learn AI. AI is basically a project coordinator for you. They don't have to make decisions. You're delegating to them, right? That's what we're doing so that you have time to learn. The more mature, the more valuable skills and building the relationships you need to move your career forward.
Uh, Thank you for addressing that question, Tim. I think this was very important to cover this aspect and to understand that AI can do a lot of repetitive tasks, but not make the decisions that a project manager would make. And that also comes with a lot of experience, right? So there is a clear differentiation. So we all know that AI can take up a lot of tasks, but it does not take away the job as long as you know how to work with AI. And with that, I think I see a lot of questions about the webinar recording and the certificate. So I just want to address this question and let you all know that we will be launching a poll towards the end of the webinar. If you fill up the poll, you will receive all of this. If you don't fill up the poll, you will not be able to receive the details. I hope I clarified that. And now I would like to move ahead with the segment. Tim, there's a lot of questions around what's happening with PMBOK 8. What are the key differences that are there? Does it change the exam entirely? Could you talk to our audience on that and give them a little bit of clarity of what's changing and what stays the same?
So what we've been talking about here in this conversation are the fundamentals of the changes. And what you're seeing here is how they've been simplified and organized in a more meaningful and valuable manner. And that's what people do, right? Think about the first person who rode a bicycle and they said, here's a bike, try it out, right? That was the PMBOK 7. And people say, well, it's a little wobbly here and a little wobbly here, and there's some differences here. And then the second bicycle they put out is going to say, hey, no wobbles. It's easy. It's more intuitive. And that's what happened with the 7 to the 8 of the PMBOK. And again, one of the things that PMI is really good at is maintaining the relevance of that. So we're going from 12 principles down to 6 more actionable principles, attitudes and behaviors. And again, in my coursework, I show this and I demonstrate how it's easier to use this. It's not just theoretical models, it's something there to apply. It's the difference between memorizing facts and figures and being able to pick something up, and just by the nature of how it's structured, you see how usable it is, okay? And then getting from 8 performance domains down to 7, and it only made sense because we were talking, one of the things that I can give you an example of is we were talking about both leadership and stewardship, right? In the seventh edition PMBOK, and some author, there's 50 authors at the PMBOK every time they write it. Some author said, you know what, stewardship really is a component of leadership. So let's actually include that. And I'm not saying that is what happened factually. Stewardship was brought back into leadership, but at the same time, this was the mindset they had. And this is how they simplified it so it's more actionable, okay? And then again, what's really strange is I said they got rid of the processes in PMBOK. Guess what come back? Yeah, they have processes now back in the PMBOK 8, which makes it very easy to use. But these processes are no longer just traditional project management processes. They apply in Agile too. So we're seeing traditional project management and Agile project management come together. Okay. The focus areas that are working with, right? We're still looking at initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, controlling, and closing. Okay, we used to call them process groups, right? They're focus areas. They're part of the project lifecycle. They have incredible meaning and value to all project managers. So they brought them back and they're in there. And also, this whole idea of I'm not just creating a deliverable, I'm not just creating something that works, I'm creating something people need, they value, they desire, corporations need, right? It's that alignment to this whole idea of strategy and outcomes that we talked about at the beginning of this.
Right. Thank you for explaining the key reference system. I think that also brings me on to another major concern a lot of our participants have, and that's more about the structure of the examination. How has the structure changed, and how should someone adapt their preparation to maximize their chances of passing on their first attempt? I think that's a major concern. Is it going to be harder? Is this exam going to reduce their chances of clearing the exam in the first attempt? What are your thoughts and tips on that topic?
So the exam itself has not really changed a lot. Um, that there are minor changes, okay? Uh, you know, previously up to this month, the exam has been half traditional and half agile and hybrid, and they're boosting up the agile questions. So in your preparation, you should be seeing a little bit more agile in your work. And if you're going with somebody, like Simplilearn, who uses PMI training content, you'll observe this. Um, again, the other things, the time it takes and how many questions and all that, that hasn't changed. One of the things that have changed, and it's not on the slide here, the type of the questions have not changed. But what has changed is this whole preparation. And if you go into the PMI website and preparing for the exam, they're going to be rolling this out. Um, there has to be some validation. It used to be that all you needed was a certificate that you attended a course, you attended formal training. And now PMI is saying, well, again, so many people are delivering this. Let's make this even more valid. Let's actually demonstrate that these people learn something. So, what's going to happen is there's going to be some type of test or quiz that PMI provides. And this is a future topic. It's not to be scared of. It's something to demonstrate that you actually attain another level of knowledge. Okay, and this really bodes well for the validity of the PMP certification. But yeah, the rest of the stuff are minor modifications.
Right. I think that gives us an understanding of the format and the type of questions they can expect. That also brings us to the next topic. We have a lot of questions about the preparation strategy and all of that. I think there's a Q&A segment towards the end. We will address all of your questions. I have read through your questions. We will answer those, but we would just like to get to the next segment and get to the end of the webinar fast. So now we're going to talk about some growth paths in project management. Now that we understood the key differences, the PMBOK update, the new exam format, Tim, this question's for you. What are some of the highest paying roles for certified project managers? So let's say they complete the certification. How can they grow in the field? What are some opportunities that they should focus on?
Okay, so in 1984, 1985, business experts say if you want to grow quicker, you cannot rely on being in a single corporation for the next 20 years. Okay. You'll get a few promotions and you'll get job raises, but you're going to have to consider jumping, jumping corporations and maybe even industries. Now, project management itself is uniquely skilled to be able to do that, but it's going to take a little extra effort on your behalf to learn the new industry, right? Number one. Number two, there are some milestones that we see. Okay, program directors. What's a program director? They're not just a program manager. A program manager manages a group of projects as a group in order to gain extra effort. Program director is a second level manager they're getting closer to that executive role, right? Where they're overseeing a lot of program and portfolio managers. And we get into this idea of portfolios, which is interesting. So you have programs and then you have portfolios. Portfolios are getting closer to the business because in portfolios, you're creating a business inside itself. A portfolio actually has finances and resource and operations and everything like a business unit has. And so that's a portfolio manager. And then being a director of portfolio managers is all of a sudden you're being a director of business owners. Okay, that's basically what you are. So this makes sense, right? And then we get into the centralization and standardization of project management through a project management office. It's either an organization or a piece of an organization that says, here's how we do project management. Come to us, right? And so as a director of PMO, a lot of my friends, after they've either been a project manager or a business unit manager that manages project managers, they go in and they start working at the PMO level. And then through that, we can actually say, okay, I'm an expert now in something else, like myself. You can consider going into consultancy. And in consultancy, you can focus on industry or you can focus on technology, like I did. I focused first on the management of multiple computers and multiple servers, right? And I was doing a lot of services on simplification and automation of that. And then I went into data center and data center strategy, right? All of a sudden, I'm impacting the bottom line of a corporation. See how each one of these steps builds on itself, okay? And then on top of that, is don't just consider technology and technology transformation, but you can focus in certain areas like pharmacy and healthcare. Everybody knows how big healthcare is becoming, and it's going to get even bigger. There are about two or three other sectors, especially in technology. If you love technology and the changes in technology, if you're an early adopter, I would consider that you spend a little effort every week on playing with new tools, not just artificial intelligence, but other tools that are being developed based on artificial intelligence that we can actually build on and learn and innovate from. The books that you find right now, there's only two or three books out there that are forward looking. Most of them are talking about what AI was in the last 2 years. Why don't you experience and work with and see where it's taking you? Because you could be the next innovator or book author.
That's wonderful, the way you phrased it, and the kind of opportunities that are out there. Some of them that we wouldn't normally think of, but these are amazing fields to get into once you complete your certification. And one more question related to the same subject, Tim. So once one completes their certification, how does their career growth look like? And how does the transition happen? We know that these opportunities are there, but how can they transition to get into that position as soon as they complete the project management certification?
I call them windows of opportunity. Every 3 to 5 years, you have a couple or more. Okay, and you look for them. You look for the disruptions, right? Disruption in an organization where they're reorging. A lot of people face fear, but that tells you there's change. And change has a 50% chance of being good and a 50% chance of being bad. Reorganization is uncertainty. And most of us don't like uncertainty. We want habit, but habit means no changes. So embracing this whole idea, okay? And again, we have this roadmap where we have project management where we know it grows naturally. I've seen this. Like in 3 years, you basically learn all you need to know about schedule and budget and risk and quality and resources and all that, right? What's left? It's the people, right? It's learning to work with a group of people who are learning those skills and help them work together as a group to actually come up with something really big. These are the organizational change managers, and this is where we see it. Now, senior project management is really interesting because number one, it's not just inside a single corporation. Number two, it may be an opportunity for you to take your project management from internal projects and start working with other organizations or corporations outside your business too, like nonprofits and that kind of thing. And I've seen that. And then strategic leadership. This is the fascinating thing. When you see that your decisions and your actions and your analysis are looking 5 years and 10 years in the future, well, we don't know what that's going to be like, and it's going to be totally different from what we understand today. But at the same time, we're putting the steps today towards that direction. And so getting more and more exposed to that today when you're working with your schedule and your scope, working more with the executive decision makers on your project and within your organization or corporation. This is what sets the path as a project manager to a senior project manager and into collaborating with and supporting and then finally participating in the strategic leadership of your organization or corporation. This is not this is not something that I'm making up. This is something that I've seen over and over again in the last 25 years of working with thousands upon thousands of people.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Tim. I think it was really informative. It's important that we find this growth window and make use of it and grab onto that opportunity that's out there. So with that, I think we have covered most of the topics. We will come to the Q&A segment shortly, and we just wanted to let you all know that you don't lack the ability now that you understand what goes behind this exam, the opportunities that are out there. A major challenge we find a lot of participants usually have is the lack of a coordinated plan. And that's exactly why we wanted to introduce Simplilearn's PMP certification training. And this is going to help you get into the field of project management. And like Tim mentioned earlier, our syllabus is currently updated with the Payback edition, 8th edition curriculum as well. So it's an updated format. And there are a few questions about people who attended the PMBOK 7th edition training. We'll come to that towards the end. I will pass on those questions to Tim. But for someone who's seriously considering taking this exam in the new format, I would like to take you all through some of the key features that we are providing as a part of this program. One of the main highlights here is the 35 contact hours through live instructor-led training. And as you all know, we focus highly on these instructor-led sessions. Tim has his batch starting tomorrow, and we also have a lot of other batches coming up. So these are going to be live sessions where you can actually ask your questions to your mentors and get it answered in within the session as well. So this is going to be very engaging, very informative, and you're going to have a lot of takeaways from each and every session. Additionally, you're going to get cheat sheets, study plans, expert application support, unlimited AI-powered mock interviews, and 24/7 course assistance. So we will ensure that you are completely ready to crack your PMP exam in your first attempt. We will be providing all the support and these materials that are mentioned on the screen for you if you decide to join us. Additionally, we have practice with 14 plus simulations and 2000 plus premier PMP exam aligned questions. So one thing we focus on here is to give you as many practice and mock questions as possible. So by the time you appear for the exam, you're completely prepared and you feel confident enough to write the exam. So that's something that we have taken care of from our side. Another important aspect is the access to exclusive generative AI master classes for project managers. Again, this is the buzzword. AI is everywhere. And like we just addressed this question about how AI is not going to take over, it's important that you learn how to work with AI effectively. And that's exactly what we will be teaching you in these master classes. Apart from that, you will have access to PMI membership with 2,500 plus webinars, template tools, PMBOK 8th edition, and also an AI coach and 750,000 plus global PM network. So we are going to provide you with all of this, and the network is very important. It's where you find people and opportunities as well. So that is something that you can actually get a lot of advantage from. And finally, you will receive PMI digital materials. So this will be audio visual content, ebook assessments, and participant guide as a part of this program if you decide to enroll with us. So these are some of the key features. If you would like to learn more or know more about this, you can find all the details in our program page. And I will share the QR code to go to that page shortly. But before we get into that, we just wanted to give you an overview of the curriculum and what the learning path looks like. So Tim, you take up all of these sessions. Could you just walk our audience quickly through what the key modules are and what they can expect?
So one of the things that has happened is that we extended the material backwards. Okay, it's really strange because we think of initiation as getting the project approved, but a lot of the material is after the foundation. We're looking at the big picture, and we're talking about stakeholders immediately because we want to understand where the idea of a project comes from because more and more project managers are participating in things like needs assessments and business cases and helping the decision makers create a project charter. That's the first big thing that I've observed through that. And the second thing is when we talk about leadership, we used to talk about leadership as here's the stakeholders, lead them, here's the team, lead them. And all of a sudden, leadership has focuses like that, but it's also integrated in the rest of the material. What are the tips and tricks to working with certain issues with people in various parts of the projects? And then also getting into they've broken up planning into two areas. One talking about scope and resources and finance and risk with the value, and then getting into the integration planning that PMI is calling integration, where we start developing, what's the methodology? Is it agile or predictive? What's the schedule look like based on that? What's the quality like? And also is contracting part of this, right? And then finally, we get into executing and monitoring, controlling. And this is a major part of where we look at leadership because you're not just managing the work, you're leading the people too, right? And then on top of that, as we close out the project, we're closing it out based on value, based on outcomes. And then there's this idea of continuous improvement, not just for the deliverable, but for the management of the work itself. So you see this as a much more comprehensive and much more deliberate approach, not just to, deliver something, but deliver something that has value.
Right. Thank you for explaining the curriculum. You can learn more about this in our course page. With that, I'm going to take you through the skills that are covered. So these are some of the skills. I'm not going to read these out loud because we have extended the webinar duration. So you can see all of this in the course page. And the program investment for this course is for Indian learners, it's 11,549 rupees. And for US learners, this is $699. So what it includes, so you have a flexi pass, which means you have the flexibility to reschedule your cohort within the first 90 days of access. Like I mentioned earlier, you have live online classroom training by top instructors, and you get a lot of learner assistance and support from our team and access to digital materials from PMI. We also have 100% money back guarantee. But these are conditional. Please go to our website and take a look at the criteria for that as well. And if you would like to enroll in this program, you can scan this QR code. This will take you to the course page, so you can see more details about this. I'm going to quickly launch a poll. If you all are interested to learn more about this, you can click on a yes, and our team will reach out to you at the earliest. If you have any questions about PMBOK 8 update, all of that, our team can help you with it. Also, because we were not able to address a lot of your questions about what's happening with the exam format, what you can expect, and we couldn't get into the curriculum extensively. This is where the program advisors can help you. And in the meantime, Tim, I'm just going to pass on a few questions to you. I think there are a lot of questions to be addressed, and I don't know if we can take all of that up, but most of the questions we will try to cover it here. Right. Yeah, so there's this. I think this is, I'm not going to read out question by question, but from most of the questions that I have seen, a very general question is that a lot of the participants today have attended the PMP PMBOK 7th edition classes, but they have not appeared for the exam yet. If that's the case, a few of them have enrolled with us, a few of them attended your classes, but it was the PMBOK 7th edition. What can they do right now? Do they have to enroll for a new course to write this exam? Can they go ahead and give this exam in the next few weeks? Would that be a possibility?
Okay, so what I would suggest is that if you've already taken the 7th edition training, right? Training under the old exam content outline and the 7th edition, you have probably a 75 to 80% chance. If you're scoring 80 to 85 on practice questions, you have about a 75 to 80% chance of passing. What I would suggest is that you spend a little more extra time if you can have access to the assessments and the practice questions. Find out where your gaps are. Find out if those gaps are related, because it's not just the PMBOK contents, it's the actual tasks in the exam content outline that you're being challenged on. And again, the tasks have not gone away. They've been reorganized. And that's the big statement here, okay? Now, in 3 or 4 years, they may add some tasks and remove them, but they basically been reorganized just like the PMBOK has been, and refined as well as balanced. So that's the big deal. If you have confidence at this point, if you're scoring consistently very high, I would consider that you can take the exam under the new model. Now, everybody's going to basically jump on this new exam and try to get it out of the way. Um, I've I am like you. I don't see many changes, but anything new puts that uncertainty in my head. So what I would do is spend a little more time on the review and more practice questions to actually get your confidence up there.
Yes, thank you for addressing that question. I think 4 to 5 people had the same question, and I hope we answered that question for all of you. Um, yeah, so there's one more question. As someone just starting up in project management, are we advised to take the exam now or after 3 years of experience?
Well, actually, you need 3 years of experience. You do. You do. You need that documentation. And they don't say 3 years of experience. They say 36 months or 60 months of experience, and that experience can cross up to the last 10 years. Now, with that in mind, how long have you been managing projects, and what is a project? And then if you go into the exact exam content outline, you say, well, I wasn't the project manager, but I did this work. And so you're doing the work of project management, and you're doing it in an organizational structure, and that's what they're looking for. That's basically the approach I take it. And this has actually been resolved very effectively. Now, what I would expect is that you go into the exam content outline. You can find it on the application page. On July 9th, it'll be on the forefront of the page, and that's when you want to look at it and say, what have I not done as a project manager, and what do I not understand? Because I guarantee you, on the new exam content outline, that task will show up 4 or 5 times, and you'll get a chance to demonstrate you understand what those tasks are, even if you haven't spent a lot of time doing those. So you do need the experience of this because a lot of the exam doesn't test you on memorization. It tests you on this mindset thing, and you cannot pretend you have the attitude or the mindset. It's something that's built into who you are.
Right. Thank you for that answer, Tim. Dinesh has a question about assessments. Dinesh, yes, Simplilearn does provide mocks and practice questions. And if you would like to learn more, you can go to the course page and it specifies all of those details. And if you would like to know more about it, you can also talk to the learning advisors. There's one more question I'd like to address before we move on to the certifications part. So, there was this, yeah. So Vishal says he has 20 years of experience and is currently working as a program manager. Will PMP help me in my career, or do you recommend any other certification?
It's funny how the PMP has actually taken over almost every other certification at PMI because there is a program management certification, and there's not a lot of people who have that. The PGMP, and it's huge and it is much more complicated and more difficult. But that being said, a program manager and a portfolio manager, what do they manage? They manage groups of projects. So you're getting into the project management components, and the leadership doesn't change, but you're also getting into the leadership component and how can we get people through debate, negotiation, and motivation to actually see things the same way. And that's one of the things that is very common between the two. I'm not saying that the PMP takes the place of program management, but at the same time, I would say that look at your organization and see what the organization recognizes. They may not even see program management professional as a certification right now.
Right. Thank you for giving clarity on that. I hope that answers your question. And before I will quickly launch the certificate poll as well, because we have extended the webinar by almost 13 minutes now. So I'll just end this poll. If you guys are interested to enroll for the program, you can visit our website. And again, there will be an option to talk to the advisor. I'm launching the certificate poll right now. Please fill up your full names to receive the certificates, and you will be receiving this within the next 48 working hours. If you don't receive the certificates, you can write to us at webinars@simplylearn.net. Tim, I think there's one more question I think we need to address, and I have seen this across many webinars that I've conducted in PMP so far. So there are participants who have, taken the course and attempted the exam, but they have failed in their very first attempt. So, how should they approach this new exam? Should they wait? And if they should wait, what should the score be? I saw someone ask this question. How much should they score in their mock tests to be confident enough to give the PMP exam?
Okay, they used to say the passing rate is 65 to 67% correct. They used to say that. That was like a decade and a half ago. They got rid of that because the grading is based on random questions. And we can't say across the board, 67 to 70%. But what I've discovered over time that if you set a relatively high bar, like 80 to 85% on your assessments, you have a higher level of knowledge and that you're more guaranteed to pass the exam, right? So the practice exams around 80 to 85% correct uh, consistently, like 3 or 4 times in a row, right? The other part is confidence. One of the things, and I'll repeat this every time I'm asked, one of the things that I hear constantly from people who are on their second attempt say, I walked into the exam and I felt fine. I saw the first 5 questions and I buckled, right? It happens, right? And number one, what you can do on your second attempt is you understand the test center and how the testing environment works. So there's the confidence there. You can prepare for that more with your focus and time management, right? And the other thing is going through practice question after practice question. I know it's difficult. It's difficult like exercise and brushing your teeth, but at the same time, this is what we do to prepare, whether it's for a uh, martial arts degree, or whether it's a degree in university or for the PMP. You put the time in the practice, and that's where it is. And it doesn't have to be like 180 questions in a row. I'm saying, that's aspirational. You should try it at least 2 or 3 times. But at the same time, I'm saying looking at the actual habits you're building on addressing the question, being able to analyze it, and then analyze the options and their variances. Get into that mindset and that attitude. This is what we're looking at. And then again, I've like about 3 to 5% of the people I work with probably don't pass the exam the first time, and I work with them. Um, there may be 2 or 3 people in my entire career I've worked with who didn't pass it 3 times. And if you don't pass it 3 times, PMI says, okay, it seems that you're not quite ready. Take a break, and then you can reply in about 6 months and try it again. It's not bad. It's different, okay? And it's different for everybody. It's where we are in our lives that determines this. If I have, if I'm ready to actually set aside things. I did my PMP after about a year and a half after I got my MBA because I knew I couldn't challenge that. And my children were older, so I felt that I could set aside time away from them. I couldn't have been doing it any earlier than I could have, although I had the experience. It was just my life where it wasn't actually conducive to helping me there. And again, don't spend like 4 hours a day preparing unless you have a real good reason. I would suggest that you spend like half an hour a day working on it, just like you do exercising or something else that you're trying to do on a regular basis. That's where you get the real growth. Okay, it's that consistent growth that you're looking at.
Right. Those were some amazing tips. And I think that would really help everyone who asked those questions. I hope it applies to all of you. With that, I'm going to end the certificate poll here. Again, we were not able to answer all of your questions, but we tried to do the best of our ability and took up a lot of your questions. Tim, once again, I think I would love to thank you for such a wonderful webinar. I had an amazing session. It was great to hear your perspectives on the PMBOK 8th edition and the update that's coming up. Learned a lot, and I'm sure the audience also enjoyed the session greatly. We see a lot of them have stayed with us till the very end. And so, do you have any specific tips for our audience? Any closing notes that you would like to leave with our audience today?
Um, these are new and exciting times, and project managers are tasked with leading everybody, including ourselves. Okay, we don't know what's happening. We don't know what AI is really going to do in the next 6 months, much less the next 3 years. So, what we need to do is get our hands on it, get into it, start playing with it, start practicing it, and see it as an extension. Because one of us in this conference may be the people who actually find a better application of AI that works better. We think we know at PMI and we think we know at my university where it's going, but who knows? If you're out managing projects and you find some innovation, maybe it's you who's going to actually promote this innovation and it becomes the next ripple in technology adoption.
That was a wonderful thought and advice, Tim. It was great having you once again. Thank you for joining us. And I would also like to take this time to thank each and every one of you for staying with us till the very end. I saw a few comments about not being able to see the poll. You can see this email ID right here. It's webinars@simplilearn.net. Just write to us and we will ensure that you receive your certificates to your mail IDs within the next 48 working hours. So thank you all for being such a wonderful audience. If you guys have any feedback or suggestions, or if you want us to conduct webinars on any specific topic, please feel free to write to us again to this email ID, and we would love to hear from all of you. And I look forward to having all of you in the upcoming webinars as well. So with that, thank you everybody. I hope to see you all soon. Take care, everyone. See you all. Bye.